Good kväll! Hi everyone, it's Tim here, and I'm with Nathan, Dominik, and Julian. And on this video, we will be discussing our favorite, the finale of Melodifestivalen 2020. so, why don't we start on and get over it? And new Shovi. Let's start off with Dominik because Dominik is actually in Stockholm right now. What are your thoughts of the top 12?
Well, everything sounds much better in the arena probably because the sound is amazing. Like talking in my sleep is like amazing. It's heaven in the arena. I think the favorites are still the same. Like Daughter and Anna are like perfect, and probably the Mamas will be third, who be like
Mm-hmm.
very likely. Today there were like 3 rows of press people there, but they performed as they would sing for 30,000. That was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall it's like a super strong final, and yeah, I think these three acts could make it to the top three, or one of them
Mm-hmm.
could win. I haven't seen Hannah, Robin, and Daughter, but
Mm-hmm.
they are also amazing. I will see them tomorrow, but from what I've seen, yes, Talking in My Sleep was a big surprise in the arena, and
Mm-hmm.
Anna was super strong, and the
Mm-hmm.
dancers amazing, amazing. Yeah.
How about you, Julian? What are your thoughts?
I think the final is very strong, as Dominic said. In the beginning, I thought the lineup was kind of meh, but after they whittled down the songs from 28 to 12, I think we have a strong selection of songs, and I think it's kind of open. Like, for example, last year it was pretty clear that John Lundvik was gonna win. But now we have a pretty wide open field of contestants. I think Daughter is very strong, Anna is strong. The Mamas have pulled through, especially when you look at the odds. And those, for me, are the top three. And I would be happy with all of them winning. But I also can possibly see others up there, like Paul Ray with Talking in My Sleep. It has this same like feeling as Every Single Day by Felix Sandman 2 years ago, where he went through Andra Hansen and then he got like second place. And I think he could possibly achieve that, but I don't think he's going to win. So any of the three female acts I mentioned earlier, those are my picks to win.
Mhm. And how about you, Nathan? Since you love Melodifestivalen as much as we do.
Yeah, this is my God. To sound awful, this is probably my 13th final following the competition. I actually think Julian was right in his first assertion. It's not a strong year across the board. The 28 songs are not particularly good. There were some, let's say, semi-final casualties, and you can see that in the voting numbers. I'm just going to point out two here. Clara Hammerström came fifth with 951,000 votes. That blew everyone else out the water, so much so that in that same show, Linda Bengtzing, who came sixth, scored more points in sixth place than basically everyone apart from Faith Kakembo, who came fifth. So Linda Bengtzing in sixth place scored more than acts that came fifth in other semi-finals. That in itself tells you that semi-final 2 was the strongest across the board, in that every song in semi-final 2 was clearly meant to be there. And as we know, because we've got 4 finalists from semi-final 2, but let me say, I think if Clara and Linda were in other semi-finals, would have also had them there too. Semi-final 2 was the only one that stood out this year. That being said, what we have ended up with is 4 extremely strong qualifiers through Andra Hansen, and of course Robin Schenbeyer really set the trend for the fact that if you can generate some late momentum, you can't really stop a bus when it moves that fast. I don't think we've got one of those this year. I think Paul Ray is fantastic live and he will do very well, but he's got a poor running order slot. Felix Sandman, on the other hand, is so inherently popular with the younger demographic and is a very competent, capable and charismatic performer that he could still be a top 3 challenger, even though he's come through under Juanson. But I think it's a 2-horse race. I think it's Dotter and the Mamas. The Mamas have made a really late surge in the bookies' odds, and deservedly so. It's an act that I think everyone forgot because it was the first one we saw. The songs have been released. Everyone's gotten used to them now over the last 2 weeks. And the Mamas have had strong impact on Spotify. They've had a good impact on YouTube. And I think with international juries, it's the kind of song that will appeal across the board. So for me, it's a 2-horse race. Dotter is the front runner. The Mamas are second. And I think there will be a surprise result for the wide majority of the Eurovision fan base when I don't think Anna Bergendahl is going to be anywhere near the top.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. Moving on with me. I'd say I agree with you all. When we first heard the lineup, we thought, what on earth is happening here? But as soon as we progressed on through the 4 or 5 shows, it was fairly obvious that, it was set up for it to crop the obvious one to basically whoever did the running order for all those and whoever placed them in which semis, and it actually gave us the right acts that was like very obvious. For me, I think it's a 3-horse race, and I'm about 99% sure that we're gonna have a woman represent Sweden in Rotterdam. But for me, that 3 race would be Doctor, of course, the Mamas, because I think they proved quite popular when they were with Jon Lundvik last year in Tel Aviv. And of course, the third one that I might disagree with Nathan just a tiny bit is, of course, Anna getting her redemption 10 years later. So that's for me. Moving on,
It is only a
oh, sorry.
redemption. It is only a redemption if she qualifies, and I don't think. I know, but that's the truth.
Well,
But that is the facts are facts. Is that she can win again? Of course, she can win again.
Uh-huh.
It wouldn't be a redemption until she qualifies. And I would like to point out that semi-final 1 currently looks like an absolute disaster class of someone's going to lose. And at that point, is it the Roop? Is it Anna Bergendahl? Is it Little Big? And at that, someone is going to miss out from that first half, and those are 3 of them in that first half. So this is why I would like to say it's not a redemption until we get to May the 14th.
All right. We'll come back to this in May, yeah? If she wins, we'll come back to this.
All right.
I'll point this out. I'll bookmark this.
I'll hold you to it.
All right, then. Okay, moving on. We know that the winner of Melodifestivalen will be selected through a jury and a televote. So now we are gonna make a prediction as to who we think would top the vote and, of course, lose it. So let's start with Julian. Who do you think will win and lose either or voting?
I think for the jury, the Mamas will be very strong. My base for that is last year. It was with Jon Lundvik. It was also this song that had this gospel vibe, and if they can recreate it, we've seen it, and the juries love them. So I think with their song, they have a really strong package. Besides that, I also think Paul Ray has a strong possibility for a high finish with the juries, and the rest is, I have no idea where the jury could place them, but I think like songs like Anis Don Demina will place pretty low. We have seen songs like his with like that are in the same like genre, like Samia and Victor, and they almost always placed very low. So that is my prediction for the jury, the Mamas, Paul Ray. And for the televote, I think it's pretty unpredictable, especially with the age groups. But again, I think the Mamas, we have seen that they are popular in every age group, not just in one. For example, Felix Sandmann, he will probably be very popular with the young voters, but not with the older ones. So I think, again, the Mamas there. But Dota, I see, is very strong. If you look at the Spotify streams and the airplay, that she will also be able to rake in a lot of the votes there.
Mm-hmm. Dominik, how about you?
I think televote might be a bit easier to predict, and I think Daughter might win the televote, followed by followed by. Good question. Like when you take the streams on Spotify, I would say like Daughter is like winning the televote, but I don't see really Honest like doing like top two or top three in the televote. Um, let's just go with Daughter winning televote. And jury vote. I think whoever wins jury vote might be in the best shot to win it all because televote is also always very close. And in the jury, I think I agree with Julian that Paul Ray, the Mamas, and I also would say Daughter will get high scores from the jury. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, I'd say Daughter has the best chance to score the
Mm-hmm.
most points from both groups.
All right then. All right then. Let's. For me, for the jury vote, I'd say the Mamas could top it, could be at the high, and then followed by Doctor and Hannah. Robin might get in there, but it might be like mid league or like not even or even low. I'd say with Aniston Demina, he'd be down there with the jury. For the televote, I'd say it might be a flip where we see Felix and Mendes and Anis like they could be high up, and it can sort of do this like balancing act where it can be like if you score high or low, or if you're not like scoring high enough on both, I can't predict the winner. So that's what I think. How about you, Nathan?
I think it's really interesting. We've talked about Spotify there. Aniston Demina is absolutely rioting at the top of the Spotify chart in terms of for the Melodifestivalen, and he has a 7,000 stream lead on Dotter. That being said, to put that into context, he is still in third, 46,000 streams a day behind the weekend. So there is context to this, is that it's not a runaway, oh my gosh, we've got something that can't be stopped here. Dotter comfortably second, a good 10, 15,000 in front of Hannah Thurnham. But then I'm going to move on to Paul Ray. Paul Ray came through Andra Hansen last week, and we know that Malu Pritz received 833,000 votes, losing to Paul Ray. Paul Ray has a solid million in a duel. So, of course, that's not going to translate to a big final with 12 acts, but that does tell you that Paul Ray has an extremely strong voting base, along with his streams coming through, along with the fact that that entry does cross generations. So, my belief is the top of the televote will be Dotter, Paul Ray in second, probably, and Aniston Demina third. Then I think we will see the Mamas and Hannah fourth, fifth. And then I think from that point it's really anyone's game. Last, I think, will be Robin Bengtsson on the televotes. I feel like either that or Mohombi. The songs aren't as impactful as some of the others, and when you are actively having to make a choice, you physically have to make a choice in the grand final, and I think that's where they will stack up. When you stack up in a semi-final, it's very different. You're hearing it for the first time. When you're hearing it and you've heard it 100 times, it's different. You vote for your favourites, and I don't think that's what's going to push Robin Bengtsson or Mohombi anywhere further. Juries, I think Paul Ray will do very well on the jury, and I also think so will Dotter. The juries are really an interesting batch. We've never, taking last year out as a massive anomaly, we've never really had a year where the juries have all lumped onto a song before. So last year was a massive shock. Nobody knew to expect that, and I just wouldn't ever expect that to be repeated. And I think that was due to the quality of the competition last year. So I think it would be a much more varied, what I like to call a scattergun voting approach on Saturday night, and juries will fire off points around the continent to any of the finalists. But I think we will see Aniston Demina possibly not doing very well there, as it's the only song that's in Swedish. And of course, international juries seem to have an aversion to anything that they can't comprehend, unless the song's called Shuffler. That seems to be the only one they actually physically got, but that was partially because of the United Kingdom rogue jury vote. But thank God we're not here this year. So we'll actually get a secure jury vote where every jury has a real worthwhile vote this year, I think. But it will certainly come down to the televote, as it always does. And as Dom says, it's always very close. So let's see how it goes forward. But my gut reaction is that Dotter and Paul Ray might well be in a fight for the finish with the Mummers if they get a further late surge in the popularity contest. So yes, that's my view.
Is there anything that we should look out for this final? Any other surprises, or do you think we're all set?
Good question.
Yeah. Who do you think do you think anyone else can shock us, or are we so certain with
I think the biggest shock is probably, like we mentioned, Paul Ray earlier. I think he's like a dark horse, but I think him winning would be like the biggest shock we could have.
Yeah.
It's not a big shock, but it's like, it's on the paper and we might have it. And it's not really a big shock, but it's unexpected for many, probably.
And someone I can see placing high, but not especially winning, is Hannah Ferm. It's like she's popular amongst all the age groups. She has a likable song, and I think while it may not win, it is something that could end up in the like 4th to 2nd place area. And like we didn't mention her at all, but I think she can make it.
I think the biggest shock might be that Felix Sandman doesn't perform very well. Felix Sandman's streams are below Victor Corona, they're below Mendes and Alvaro Estrella, they're below Robin Bengtsson. And, you know, when it comes to this final, he's probably only just, you know, the only one he's in front of is Mohombi. When it comes to songs that are being streamed. So I think perhaps the shock will be that Felix Sandman, who you would assume has a strong vote, maybe doesn't. Or perhaps the shock is Felix Sandman does as well as we expect, despite nothing of the evidence to make that happen. Because you just never know, do you? On a big Saturday night, you don't know what the jury is going to do. You don't know what the televoters are going to do. And maybe the song that comes third in both votes is the one that goes through. In which case, then Sweden sends a man. But that's that. I think this is their opportunity to send Dotter and secure a strong result, but you just don't know until it happens.
True.
And for me, I'd say if the shocker would happen, would be Mariette getting her lowest mellow result ever. I think.
Shock though with this
But
one.
is that a shocker?
I love
Well, maybe like last or like second to last, but I can, looking at it right now and looking at the hype and looking at who's being mentioned everywhere, I think Mariette's the one that's like I'm not seeing much of, and I don't know if that should be concerning or not.
I think it is concerning. She's not in the top 50 on Spotify. And as it stands, I love Mariette, but it is it's not her strongest entry as a contest entry. But it looks lovely on stage.
All right, then to round things off, who do we think will represent Sweden in Rotterdam? Nathan?
Dotter, top 5 in Rotterdam.
Julian?
At this point, I think the Mamas.
Dominik?
We will go from Rotterdam to Dotterholm next year.
Great puns. And for me, I'm stuck between the two. But between two, I think you already know who I'm talking about. But for me, as much as I want a Rotterdam to happen, it's gonna be a Rotterdam for me. All right then, everyone. And that is it from us. And that's our prediction for this weekend's Melodifestivalen. Do you agree with our comments? And thoughts? Let us know down below. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like what you saw, then click the like and the subscribe button. Don't forget to push the notification bell to be one of the first ones to find out whenever we have a new video. The pre-party season is nearly upon us, so don't forget to, follow us all over at ESCXTRA to keep up to date. But for now, godnatt och tack så mycket.